How's it going, everybody? Real Diversity. We're back with another video, a little different from what I normally do. Normally do gameplay of decks and things like that. But a while ago did a breakdown between May and Copycat. So I just thought it did decent. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about this new card and just give our thoughts and act. The question is this meta, and just break it down at least in how I usually think when I'm building decks and looking at cards, things like that. So first off, stage 2 Mega Pidgeot. So stage 2 Mega Pidgeot. So again, this is a Mega and it's a stage 2 Megas. Again, 3 costs, 3 prizes if they are lost. So your opponent automatically wins anytime they knock out a Mega. So something to note there. Also, again, stage 2, also something very relevant when we're talking about this game. Stage 2s have notoriously been on lackluster in a sense because of the extra requirement they take to get set up. Whether you either needs to just go the long route, which is taking 3 turns to get set up, or you can go the short route, which is having both a copy of rare candy and your stage 2 in your hand to get set up at the earliest, your second turn. So again, stage 2s are a little difficult compared to anything else to get set up. That's why they normally aren't as the top, and most of the times they aren't that overpowered. So sometimes their requirements aren't, plus them just not being that great of a card. Usually these cards don't get much play in pocket. So that's already something to note. And then Megas also is its own struggle and challenge of being a card that you just have to treat very cautiously, because if it ever is lost, you lose the game. So unlike EXs where you can lose 2 EXs and or lose 8 EX and still be in the game, to potentially still win, whatever the case may be. So let's look at the fact. Oh my goodness. 1 second. All right, on charger now. So let's just ask the simple question: is this a good card? Straight up, just looking at the attack, it is a 3 energy colorless attack called Giant Twister. So let's read it. It does 100 damage. Flip 3 coins each for each heads. Discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. If all of them are tails, this card does nothing. So essentially, if you flip all tails, you I'm assuming you don't even do damage. So which yeah. So that's pretty much how it's stated when it says flip a coin, and if you get tails, do this does nothing. Yeah. So this attack will genuinely, at the worst, do absolutely nothing. And at the best is doing 100 damage, and your opponent is discarding 3 energy. Now, on paper, is this a good attack? Yes, this is very much a decent attack. I would say I wish that the energy deal wasn't because it is very likely to hit. It's low percentage, but it's very plausible to hit 3 tails. That happens pretty often. Actually, if you've ever played Moltres, you know how often it is to hit 3 tails. So 3 tails is very likely, and so having the risk of not doing any damage at all is very, very troubling. Now, to counteract this, but anytime you get even just 1 head, you're doing damage, but also not only are you doing damage, they're losing in energy. So when this card gets at least 1 hit, that's extremely valuable compared to something like Grindcore. Grindcore is very similar, except Grindcore is going to always do damage. In Grindcore, you flip coins until you hit tails. But Grindcore is 2 energy, and you're doing 30 with a pretty similar, not the exact same, but pretty similar. So this tech is very strong, to say the least. Now let's talk about, well, I guess let me finish talking about why this is such a good tech. Because again, if you can pair this with Will. So Will's a good card to throw in there to guarantee at the worst you're going to do damage, and also they're going to lose an energy that turn. So that is really strong. At the best, this is if everything is going, this is a very, very detrimental card to go against, especially for something like a Gyarados. Mega Gyarados, you hit Mega Gyarados and they lose like 3 energy, or just even 1 to 2. Just if they lose 2 energy, they can attack next turn, and then you would swing again, so they may lose another energy or two. So at the best, certain Pokemon will just not be able to compete, if they lose two energy or not, and that's how Grindcore kind of works. If you could force your opponent to lose two energy, most of the time there's no way to recover from losing two energy, so they can't even attack next turn. So this card also builds on that too, where you attack again. They may not be able to do nothing once this card's set up. So at its best, it can pretty much shut down anything. If your opponent has active is if your opponent's active Pokemon is their main attacker in whatever they've been setting up. So yeah, at its worst, I mean at its best, I'm sorry. Yeah, very strong, super strong card. Again, Mega, so it's at 210 HP. So not like you're going to be able to take this thing down easy at all. Like no way you're going to be able to take this thing down easy. It's going to be 2 to kill regardless. So there's always a chance when this thing retaliates back that it's going to do some heavy damage, by discarding a bunch of your energy. Now, is that enough to put this immediately? Just put this card in like an S tier class or deck. Let's debate. I think ultimately this card is, the more I thinking about it, reason it out, it's pretty good. But let me, before I break down like any potential hiccups and flaws, let's just a turn by turn basis. So let's say you go first, and I would just ideally, this is a Mega 2, so there's no negative downsides to playing this card with baby Pokemon. So if you pair this with a baby Pokemon, there's no downside to that, because once Mega Pidgeot's knocked out anyway, that's the end of the game. So unlike EXs, sometimes when it came to babies, like, okay, if you lose an early baby Pokemon and then you send out like Arceus or something, then Arceus gets knocked out, that's the end of the game. You can't set up a second Arceus. You can't do anything like that. If you set up early enough before they knock out your baby and then you throw Arceus out there, they have to go through your Arceus and then probably a second Arceus or a second whatever else you set up. So that's really strong. Pidgeot, once you just want to get this thing set up and throw it out there. Once it's out there, that's hopefully your win condition for the game, and you can steamroll your opponent from there. So let's say turn by turn. If we're going first, we do nothing, but obviously I would assume we're running a baby. We're gonna be running some energy ramp with this, most likely a baby Pokemon. And this is the flaw with Gengar. Gengar would be the amazing card, especially nowadays, but it's gonna at the worst take 3 turns for you to be able to start attacking with Gengar. So that's the issue with Gengar, is that you're going to have to take 3 full turns to start attacking. And Gengar would work best if you could start attacking your second turn and shut down your opponent from their second turn onwards. But anyways, Pidgeot, you would pair this with a baby. So at the worst, it's gonna take you 3 turns to attack. At the best, it going first. So going first at the worst, you get your baby Pokemon, you throw energy on. It's gonna take you still 3 turns to get rolling. It's not too bad. At best, if you go second, you leave with a baby, you can start attacking your second turn. So that's pretty good. Let's start there. But by that point, if you did start, your opponent only has 1 energy attached anyway at this point. So not too crazy. Like you're doing anything too crazy here. But again, if you can knock off that 1 little energy, then they're back to 0. So still strong early game as well. Especially if you go second. If you go first, they've set up 2 energies. Most likely still strong too, especially if you can knock both the energies they just built up. If you end up somehow going first. So again, turn by turn, this fits really nicely, and this is how I realized that Entei wasn't going to be a good match for Blaziken. Day 1, people were like, Entei is the best pairing. I was doing like, if you just do the numbers, you're into it. You at best have to go second to start attacking your second turn. If you go first, you're not attacking until your 3rd turn, and that's with your Entei, and then he's not even your main attacker, so it's taking you 3 turns just to start attacking with Entei. Not even Mega Blaziken doesn't even get a chance to shine, so it takes so long for Mega Blaziken to even it would take 4 turns for Mega Blaziken to get out there if you go first. That is terrible. There's no way that's a good deck. Um, if you go second, Intake can start attacking your second turn, but again, you won't even be able to set Blaziken up until your third turn, and that's with the Flame Patch. So it was a lot of it's just like I just don't know the time. Like giving your opponent 4 turns is a lot, especially if they're playing something really quick or something if it takes really long time to set up. You just gave them all the time they needed to set up. So really tough to that's why I knew for a fact that was not a good pairing. But anyways, that was what people thought because of the extra draws. But this card is a card, if you're pairing it with a baby, and you should be getting going pretty early, your third, second turn. So no drawbacks. And at worst, if you're going second, 3 turns minimum anyway. So, I mean, that's not too bad either, because that means your opponent only has had 1 turn of energy, or sorry, 2. You're going second. So I guess they have 2 turns of energy by that point. So, is my math off there? 1, you're on the second. Yeah. So they've had 2 turns of energy by that point. But so pretty strong card on paper. But how would this actually work against the current meta cards? So I'll just talk about Mega Blaziken. Let's just bring them up again. Mega Blaziken doesn't care at all about losing energy. It can go straight to 0, and it can still attack you the very next turn. Now, the issue comes, especially if Mega Blaziken attacks into you, then you're at a disadvantage here because all he needs is 1 Flame Patch. Now, if you attack into Mega Blaziken first, it's still, at worst for you, it's going to be 3 to kill him. You're gonna have to attack him 3 times, with no red or nothing like that. 3 times to knock him, and then and so he has the opportunity to double Flame Patch you and win. So that's tricky. It's the pretty much the star of this season, which is Mega Blaziken, and things like Mega Absols, anything like that. Not Mega Absol, but something like Hydreigon isn't really scared of this. He's also a pretty big meta card. Things like Altaria is the only thing I can see that may be pretty fearful of this, but you need to discard 2 energies from Altaria for them to essentially not have a turn to themselves. So Mega Altaria is one of those cards that would be affected heavily, and also 2 cards that would definitely be affected pretty badly would be Mega Ampharos and Mega Gyarados. Now, those are 2 cards that would not match well against this deck at all. So those are things you definitely don't want to run into, or you want to run into, but those decks aren't played. So into the current meta, Pidgeot isn't doing that hot. And if the meta was flipped to, one of the other megas, one high energy attacker, maybe like a Guzzlord or something, yeah, pretty good, pretty good card. So I would just say it definitely, I think this is definitely a card that for a free card, if you will, or a card everyone can get, I think this is pretty good. I think this card has value for a free, compared to all the other bonus cards we've gotten. This card actually has the most value, especially considering it's a mega too. So yeah, 210. Electric isn't that popular right now. Obviously, you would never want to run into Oricorio against this deck, or at least you would need to throw something else in here. But considering this deck is colorless, or he's colorless, you can pair this with anything too. And I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry, too. That's a big point. You can pair this card with any card, so that gives it its own. It's like a That's the thing with Mega Altaria that made it so strong, is that it could be paired with so much, at least in the psychic side of things. Well, this card also can be paired with just, like, you could throw this in Mega Altaria's deck. You know what I'm saying? You could throw this in Blaziken. You can throw this in any stage 2 deck. Just throw it in there instead of whoever else, and it would do just fine. So it can blend in any deck. Essentially, though, you would want to run this as its own attacker, and easily you could easily pair this with anything like Oricorio or something like that. So I don't see any issue this card is gonna really have, except for the fact that into other megas, it's gonna be 3 to kill for the most part. But again, that's really only into the other stage twos, like Blaziken and like something like Gyarados or so, Ampharos. But into like Altaria and like Absol and stuff, it two shots them. So that's pretty scary, pretty scary card. If it can, if again we're talking about if we're getting coin flips. So and like I said, on the worst, you can do nothing. So that could be terrible. So you need a will for sure to just guarantee you're doing damage. And them losing 1 energy isn't gonna be enough. But if you're using will and you look up and they lose 2 energies, you pretty much force them to not be able to attack. So and unless it's something like I said, like Blaziken or something like that, right? That can move energy. Something like electric decks. This is very weak. It's gonna suck into electric decks for 2 reasons. One is weak to electric, and other reason electric has so much ramp that is able to move energy pretty easily. So, and most electric types have low energy costs, and so would definitely not be a good time into electric deck. But everything else is pretty good. Definitely would be great into any of those high energy steel decks or fighting decks that require high so it's not a bad card. I think it definitely is something to consider. I don't think it will be meta or anything like that, but I think it could definitely sneak into, since it's free, it could definitely, it's viable too. Again, colorless. So again, you can sneak this into a lot of things, and people are very creative. So I'm saying no, but I don't like, you can like, even like, you can pair this thing with something like what's his name, Savali. Like you could pair it with something like that. You can pair this thing with Rampart. Oh, no, you want to do that, but you can pair this thing up pretty well with something like Darkrai, Garatina, anything like that. Is paired very solidly with any of those basics like that love a little extra energy. So yeah, you can pair this pretty well with a lot of things, and I think you would have no issues at all. So I think people are going to find some way to make this deck really strong, and I think it's a card. The more I like initially looked at it, I was like, it's not that great, but when you think of how versatile it is, that's the good part. But again, it's still a high roll deck because you're flipping coins. Anytime you're flipping coins, it's high roll, and you're forced to play a card like Will, who is gonna benefit you. But again, you could be using something else that turn that you're forced to use will. Like you can't, maybe a Cyrus, maybe you need the Cyrus, and so now you have no guaranteed way of getting a knock. And then again, like I said too, I would imagine a card like this is paired very nicely with something that's hitting the bench, so that you can draw out things from the bench. So you'd imagine you're playing this with like Hitmonlee, Heatmore, or something like that. That's able to hit the bench, Jirachi or something, hitting anything on the field and bringing it out. But once you do that, if you don't hit your coin flips, you're doing nothing. So it can be negative. And again, two is gonna be pretty much 2 to kill. I mean, it's gonna be pretty much 3 to kill a lot of things, especially anything that's running just one lilies, like let me just like Garchomp, right? Like it's gonna be 3 to kill like a Garchomp if they literally want. You know what I'm saying? So that can be tough to deal with. So but yeah, other than that, yeah, I think the card itself is decent. I think it has limitless possibilities. So I don't know. I can't speak really on this. This is the first time I think we've had a card like this that's like limitless, a viable card like this that has unlimited potential in a sense where you can just plop this into a lot of decks. I guess Alolan Raichu was one of those cards too, but it never seen much traction. But definitely one of those cards you can throw. So I would suggest definitely this is definitely worth picking up at the minimum. Never know when it'll have some value. I don't think it'll just take over the meta, but definitely a crazy card. I think tournament wise too. I think there's gonna be some tournaments this weekend and I think this card may see some play. But again, it's a high roll deck, so I'm not. Anytime I'm like I need to flip coins, I'm not a fan of. But you know, if you get lucky, you're unbeatable. You're unbeatable. So, but yeah. Anyways, that's all I had to say, man. I hope you guys did enjoy this. World Diversity, man. We're out. Peace. Thumbs up. The thumb up. Hit that thumb up on the video. Subscribe and comment. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think about this card. Peace out.